The stars looked small from the big window of the Galactic Council building. Kang stood with his hands behind his back, watching the ships come and go. He was thinking about the Dragoth again. "Sir, the reports are ready," said a young aide, holding a small screen. Kang nodded and took the screen. The Dragoth had attacked another ship last week. No one survived, just like always. Kang was the chief security officer of the Galactic Council. He had worked here for 30 years. In all that time, one thing never changed. Dragoths killed everything they met. Dragoths looked like the dragons from old Earth stories. They were huge with scales, wings, and fire breath. But they were not just animals. They were smart. They could fly through space. They could break through ship walls like they were paper. And they always attacked. The Galactic Council had one rule about Dragoths: stay away from them at all costs. Kang walked to the big meeting room where the council members waited. 37 different alien species sat around a round table. Some had fur, some had scales, some had skin like humans. All of them looked worried. "Another attack," Kang said simply. 14 dead. The ship was at the edge of Sector 7. "Too close to the human colony," said a blue-skinned council member. "The humans should never have built so close to Dragoth space," said another with 4 eyes. "They're new to space travel. They don't understand the danger." Kang looked at the human representative, a woman named Min. She frowned but said nothing. Humans had only joined the Galactic Council 10 years ago. They were still learning the rules. "I will send another warning to the colony on Harmony," Kang said. "But humans are." He looked for a simple word: stubborn. On the planet called Harmony, Director Han walked through the colony's main building. The sun was setting, turning the sky purple. The colony looked peaceful with its white buildings and green fields. 5,000 humans lived here now. It was a good place to live, except for one thing. It was only 2 light years from Dragoth territory. Han's communicator beeped. It was another message from the Galactic Council. Another warning about Dragoths. He sighed and put the communicator away without reading it. He had work to do. "Uncle," called the voice. Han turned to see his nephew, Ji-Ho, walking toward him. Ji-Ho was tall and thin with round glasses. He studied alien animals for the colony. "I need to talk to you about my research," Ji-Ho said with excitement in his voice. Han tried not to look annoyed. "Is this about the Dragoths again?" Ji-Ho nodded eagerly. "I've been studying the records of all known Dragoth encounters. I think we've been looking at them all wrong. I don't think they're just mindless killers." Han rubbed his forehead. Ji-Ho was brilliant, but sometimes his ideas were dangerous. The Galactic Council has 400 years of data on Dragoths. They attack and kill. That's what they do. But what if they're just scared? Ji-Ho asked. What if they attack because everyone they meet is afraid of them? Fear can smell like a threat to many species. Ji-Ho, I can't support research that might attract Dragoth attention. The Council just sent another warning. A ship was destroyed last week. Ji-Ho looked disappointed, but nodded. I understand. But I'll keep studying the old records. As they talked, a little girl ran up to them. She had black hair in 2 braids and a big smile. This was Sue, Ji-Ho's 6-year-old daughter. "Daddy." "Uncle Han," she called. "Look what I found." She held up a jar with a glowing blue bug inside. Ji-Ho knelt down to look at the jar. "That's wonderful, Sue. Where did you find it?" "By the big trees at the edge of the farm," she said proudly. "It was hiding under a leaf. I named it Sparkle." Han couldn't help but smile. Sue was always finding new creatures. She wasn't afraid of anything. "You shouldn't go so far from the colony alone," Han said gently. "I wasn't alone," Sue said. "Daddy's drones were watching me." She pointed to a small flying robot hovering nearby. Ji-Ho used these drones to study animals, but he also used them to watch Sue when she played outside. "Good," Han said, patting her head. "Always stay where the drones can see you." Later that night, Jiho sat in his lab looking at Dragoth data on his computer. Sue had gone to bed hours ago, but he couldn't sleep. There was something important in the data. He was sure of it. All Dragoth attacks had one thing in common. The victims were afraid. Ships tried to run. Colonies fired weapons. Everyone reacted with fear. What would happen if someone wasn't afraid? His thoughts were interrupted by an alarm from his computer. Something big was moving near the colony. Something very big. Jiho typed quickly, checking the sensors. The blood drained from his face. A Dragoth was approaching Harmony. He hit the emergency button. Alarms began to sound throughout the colony. Director Han was woken by the alarms. He jumped out of bed and grabbed his communicator. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Dragoth, sir," said the night watchman, heading straight for us. "It will be here in 20 minutes. Han felt cold fear in his stomach. "Sound the shelter alarm. Get everyone underground now." All across the colony, people woke to the sound of the alarms. Parents grabbed children. Workers left their posts. Everyone began running toward the underground shelters built into the hills. At the colony school, which also served as a community center, teachers quickly gathered sleeping children who had been at an overnight event. They counted heads as they rushed toward the nearest shelter. "Everyone stay calm," called Teacher Du. "Walk quickly, don't run." In the confusion and darkness, with alarms blaring, no one noticed that one small girl wasn't with the group. Sue had been in the bathroom when the alarm started. When she came out, everyone was gone. She wasn't scared, though. She had practiced shelter drills before. She would just go to the shelter on her own. She walked outside, looking for other people, but she turned the wrong way. Instead of heading toward the shelter, she walked toward the edge of the colony, where the farms met the forest. The night was quiet except for the distant alarms. Sue looked up at the stars. They were so pretty. Then she saw something moving across the sky, something big with wings. It was the most beautiful thing Sue had ever seen. In the colony's control room, Director Han watched the screens with horror. The Dragoth had arrived, a massive shape against the night sky. Its wingspan was longer than the colony's biggest building. Its scales glittered like black metal. "Where is everyone?" Han asked urgently. 98% accounted for in the shelters," said a colony officer, still checking on the rest. Jiho burst into the control room, his face pale. "Sue's teacher just called me. Sue isn't in the shelter. She's missing." Han felt his heart stop. "The school group. They lost her in the confusion," Jiho said, his voice shaking. "I have to find her." "You can't go out there now," Han said, grabbing his arm. "The Dragoth. She's my daughter," Jiho said, pulling away. "My drones will find her." Before Han could stop him, Jiho was gone. Outside, under the stars, little Sue watched with wonder as the great beast landed in a field near the forest edge. Up close, it was even more amazing. It looked like the dragons from her storybooks, but bigger than a house. The Dragoth turned its head, and its eyes, glowing gold like small suns, looked directly at her. Sue smiled and waved. Jiho ran through the empty streets of the colony. His heart beat fast in his chest. Where was Sue? The colony felt strange with no people around. Everyone was hiding in the shelters. He checked his small computer. His drones were looking for Sue, flying in all directions. One drone sent back a signal. It had found something near the edge of the colony, where the farms met the forest. Jiho ran faster. Please let her be safe, he thought. At the Galactic Council building, Kang was woken by an urgent message. He looked at his screen and his eyes went wide. A Dragoth had been spotted at the human colony on Harmony. "Get me a ship," he ordered, "and call the emergency team." His assistant, Sunhai, looked worried. "Sir, it will take us at least 3 days to reach Harmony." By then, she didn't finish her sentence. They both knew what would happen. By the time they got there, the colony would be destroyed. No one survived a Dragoth attack. "We still have to try," Kang said. and send a message to all nearby ships to stay away from that sector. Sun He nodded and left to make the arrangements, but she stopped at the door and turned back. "Sir, what if we're wrong about the Dragoths?" she asked. Kang frowned. "What do you mean?" "I've been reading some research from that human scientist on Harmony. He thinks Dragoths might respond to emotions, that they attack because everyone is afraid of them." "That's nonsense," Kang said. "We have 400 years of data. Dragoths kill. That's what they do." Sun He nodded and left, but she didn't look convinced. The Dragoth was even bigger up close than Sue had thought. Its head alone was bigger than her bedroom. Its scales were black with hints of red, like the coals in a fire pit. Steam came from its nose when it breathed. Sue was not afraid. She had never been told to fear Dragoths. She knew from her father's work that animals usually weren't mean unless they felt threatened. "Hello," she said to the giant creature. The Dragoth tilted its head. Its golden eyes studied her carefully. It made a low rumbling sound. Sue took a small step forward. "My name is Sue. What's yours?" The Dragoth lowered its head until its nose was close to the ground, close to Sue. It sniffed the air around her. "You're so pretty," Sue said. "You look like the dragons in my books, but better." The Dragoth made another sound, softer this time, almost like a purr. Jai-Ho followed his drone's signal to the edge of the forest. His legs felt weak with fear. The Dragoth was there, a massive shape in the darkness. And standing in front of it, looking tiny in comparison, was Sue. "No," Jai-Ho whispered. He was too far away to reach her in time. He couldn't call out. Any sudden noise might startle the Dragoth into attacking. He watched, frozen in place, as his daughter talked to the most dangerous creature in the galaxy as if it were a friendly dog. Then he saw something impossible. The Dragoth lowered its giant head to the ground, bringing its nose close to Sue. In all recorded history, a Dragoth had never done this. They always attacked, always. But this one wasn't attacking. It was listening. Jai-Ho's drone recorded everything. The computer in his pocket was sending the images back to the colony's main system. He knew Director Han and others in the control room must be watching in disbelief. In the control room, Director Han stared at the screen showing Jai-Ho's drone feed. Around him, colony officers watched in silence, their faces pale. "Is that Sue?" someone whispered. "With the Dragoth." "It's not attacking," said another voice in wonder. Han couldn't speak. He was seeing something that should be impossible. The girl was just standing there, talking to the creature like it was an old friend. "Get me the Galactic Council," he finally said. "They need to see this." "What do you eat?" Sue asked the Dragoth. "I like noodles and fruit. Do you like fruit?" The Dragoth made a sound that almost seemed like a reply. Its eyes never left her. Sue noticed that the creature's scales gave off a faint glow, like they had tiny lights inside them. She wanted to touch them to see if they were warm. "Can I pet you?" she asked. The Dragoth didn't move. It just watched her with those golden eyes. Sue took another small step forward. She reached out her hand, slowly, the way her father had taught her to approach new animals. "I won't hurt you," she said. Her small hand touched the Dragoth's nose. The scales were warm and smooth like sun-heated stones. The Dragoth closed its eyes, as if enjoying the touch. Sue smiled. "See, we can be friends." Jai-Ho couldn't believe what he was seeing. His daughter was petting a Dragoth, and the Dragoth was letting her. Slowly, carefully, he began to walk toward them. He moved as quietly as he could, not wanting to break whatever magic was happening. The Dragoth's eyes snapped open. It saw Jai-Ho and raised its head high, a deep rumble coming from its throat. Jai-Ho stopped, his heart pounding. This was it. The Dragoth was going to attack. But Sue turned and saw him. "Daddy," she called happily. "Look, I made a new friend." The Dragoth looked from Sue to Jai-Ho and back. Its rumbling got quieter. "Her scales are so pretty, Daddy," Sue continued, unaware of the danger. She's like a big space dragon. Can we keep her? Jai-Ho almost laughed despite his fear. Keep a Dragoth? It was absurd. But then again, so was what he was seeing right now. Sue, he said gently, I need you to come to me very slowly. But Daddy, I'm showing her that humans are nice. Sue said, you always say animals are only scary when they're scared. Jai-Ho realized his daughter was right. His own theory, the one no one believed, was playing out in front of him. The Dragoth wasn't attacking because Sue wasn't afraid. She was approaching it with friendship, not fear. You're right, Sue, he said. But it's time to go home now. Maybe your friend can visit again sometime. Sue nodded. She turned to the Dragoth. I have to go now, but I'll come back tomorrow, okay? We can play more then. To Jai-Ho's amazement, the Dragoth made a soft sound and gently nudged Sue with its nose before raising its head again. Sue walked to her father and took his hand. I named her Ember, she said proudly, because her scales look like fire. Jai-Ho picked up his daughter and held her tight. That's a good name, he managed to say, his voice shaking. They walked back toward the colony, Jai-Ho looking back over his shoulder every few steps. The Dragoth, Ember, stayed where she was, watching them go. In the Galactic Council building, Kang was about to board a ship when Sunhai came running. Sir, you have to see this, she shouted, holding a screen. Kang took the screen and watched the footage from the human colony. He saw a small human child touching a Dragoth's nose. He saw the Dragoth allowing it. This is impossible, he whispered. The little girl, son, he said. She wasn't afraid, just like that scientist predicted. Kang watched the footage again. 400 years of certainty about Dragoths began to crumble in his mind. Change of plans, he said. We're still going to Harmony, but not for a rescue mission. He paused, still staring at the screen. We need to see this for ourselves. The Galactic Council room was filled with loud voices. All 37 members were talking at once. On the big screen at the front of the room, the video of Sue petting the Dragoth played over and over. It must be fake, shouted a council member with green skin. The humans are trying to trick us, said another. Kang stood silently, watching the video again. He had seen many things in his long career, but nothing like this. Min, the human representative, finally spoke. The video is real. Our colony on Harmony has confirmed it. The little girl's name is Sue. The Dragoth has been near the colony for 3 days now. It has not attacked anyone. Impossible, muttered a council member. Dragoths always attack. Always. Perhaps we don't know as much about Dragoths as we thought, Min said. The room went quiet. This idea was hard for many of them to accept. For hundreds of years, the council had believed one thing about Dragoths. Now a small human child had shown them something different. I will go to Harmony myself, Kang announced. I will see this Dragoth with my own eyes. I'll go too, said Sunhai, his assistant. And we should bring scientists who study animal behavior. The council voted and agreed. They would send a team to Harmony right away. Back on Harmony, life had changed. The shelters were empty now. People had come back to their homes, but they lived differently. They spoke in quiet voices. They moved carefully, because at the edge of the colony, a Dragoth was still there. Director Han held a colony meeting in the main hall. The Dragoth has not shown any aggression, he told everyone. Jai-Ho's research suggests that it responds to our emotions. If we stay calm, it stays calm. But what happens when it gets hungry? Someone asked. Will it eat us then? Actually, Jai-Ho said, stepping forward, we've observed it hunting in the forest. It eats the large deer-like animals there. It seems to have no interest in eating humans. And what about the little girl? Asked another person. Is she safe? Jai-Ho smiled. Sue is fine. In fact, the Dragoth seems to like her. This was hard for people to believe, But they had all seen the video now. They had seen Sue pet the Dragoth, and the Dragoth letting her. The Galactic Council is sending a team to study this, Han said. They'll be here in 2 days. Until then, we continue normal life, but with caution. Stay inside the colony boundaries. And no one, absolutely no one except Jeho and his research team, goes near the Dragoth. Everyone nodded in agreement, but many looked worried. Sue sat at the kitchen table in her home, eating breakfast. Her father was typing on his computer. "Can I go see Ember today?" she asked. Jeho looked up from his work. "Yes, but only with me and the drones, like yesterday." Sue nodded happily. She had visited Ember every day since they first met. The Dragoth seemed to wait for her, staying in the same area near the forest edge. "Some important people are coming from the Galactic Council," Jeho told her. "They want to see Ember too. Will they be nice to her?" Sue asked, concerned. Jeho smiled. "I hope so, but they might be scared at first. Not everyone is as brave as you." Sue thought about this. People shouldn't be scared of Ember. She's nice. "I know," Jeho said. "That's why your friendship with her is so special. You're showing everyone something new about Dragoths." Sue didn't fully understand why her friendship with Ember was so important to the grown-ups. She just knew she liked the big dragon-like creature. Ember was gentle and seemed to enjoy when Sue talked to her. After breakfast, Jeho and Sue walked to the edge of the colony. 2 security officers went with them, staying a safe distance back. Jeho's drones flew ahead, looking for Ember. They found her in the usual spot, lying in the morning sun. When she saw Sue, she raised her head and made a soft, rumbling sound. "Hi, Ember," Sue called, waving. The Dragoth's golden eyes fixed on the little girl. It made a sound that almost seemed like a greeting. Jeho watched in amazement as his daughter ran toward the massive creature. His research was proving more correct every day. The Dragoth responded to emotions. It was gentle with Sue because Sue approached with love, not fear. He recorded everything with his drones. The council would want to see all of this. 3 days later, the large council ship landed at the colony spaceport. Kang stepped out first, followed by Sunhai and 5 alien scientists from different worlds. They all looked nervous. Director Han and Jeho met them at the landing area. "Welcome to Harmony," Han said. "We've prepared rooms for you in the main building." Kang didn't smile. "I'm not here for comfort. I'm here to see this Dragoth and learn the truth." "Of course," Jeho said. "We can go this afternoon. The Dragoth is most active in the evening." "You call it Ember, I believe." Sunhai asked. Jeho nodded. "My daughter named her that, because her scales look like fire embers." "You let your daughter near this creature?" Kang asked, looking shocked. "She was the first to approach it," Jeho explained. "And now they have a special bond. You'll see." Kang looked doubtful. He had spent his whole career warning people about the danger of Dragoths. It was hard for him to believe one could be friendly. That evening, the council team, along with Han and Jeho, walked to the edge of the colony. Sue was there too, holding her father's hand. "The Dragoth is just beyond those trees," Jeho said, pointing. Kang and the others looked nervous. They had weapons, but everyone knew weapons did little against Dragoths. As they reached the clearing, they saw Ember. She was even bigger than they expected. Her black scales shone in the evening light. She turned her head to look at the group, her golden eyes glowing. The council team froze. Kang's hand moved to his weapon. "No," Jeho said quickly. "Don't show fear or aggression. That's what triggers them to attack." Sue let go of her father's hand and took a step forward. "Sue, wait," Jeho said, but his daughter didn't listen. "Hi, Ember," she called happily. "I brought some new friends to meet you." Ember looked at the little girl and made a soft sound. Then she lowered her massive head to the ground, bringing her nose close to Sue. The council team watched in disbelief as Sue reached out and gently petted the Dragoth's nose. Ember closed her eyes, as if enjoying the touch. "Impossible," Kang whispered. "She's been doing this for days now," Jaiho said quietly. "The Dragoth recognizes her, trusts her. In 400 years of records," Kang said, "we have never seen anything like this." Sun Hai took a small step forward. "The child shows no fear, and so the Dragoth shows no aggression. Would she let others approach?" one of the alien scientists asked. "Slowly," Jaiho advised, "and only with Sue's help." The council team watched as Sue continued to pet Ember, talking to her as if she were a pet dog, not the most feared predator in the galaxy. "Everything we thought we knew about Dragoths," Kang said slowly, "might be wrong." In that moment, as a small human girl petted a creature that had brought terror to the galaxy for centuries, the universe changed. A new understanding was beginning, and it had started with the simple courage of a child who didn't know she was supposed to be afraid. 1 week had passed since the council team arrived on Harmony. The colony was now filled with visitors. Scientists from many worlds came to see the friendly Dragoth. News had spread across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see the impossible. A Dragoth that didn't attack. Kang sat in Director Han's office, looking at data on a screen. He had watched Sue interact with Ember every day. He had seen how gentle the Dragoth was with the little girl. It went against everything he had believed for 30 years. "Your scientist was right," Kang admitted to Han. "Dragoths respond to emotions. When approached with fear or weapons, they attack. When approached with calm and friendship, they respond in kind." Han finished. "Yes." Kang looked tired. 400 years of Galactic Council policy based on a misunderstanding. Sun Hai entered the room with more data. "The tests are complete," she said. "Ember is definitely communicating with Sue. It's not just sounds. The Dragoth understands her." "Can we learn to understand the Dragoth?" Han asked. "Jaiho is working on that now," Sun Hai said. "His translation program is making progress." In a special lab at the edge of the colony, Jaiho worked with a team of scientists. They had set up equipment near where Ember stayed. The equipment recorded all the sounds the Dragoth made. Jaiho's computer program looked for patterns in these sounds. Sue sat on a chair nearby, drawing pictures of Ember. "Daddy, when can I show Ember the other kids?" she asked. Jaiho looked up from his work. Over the past few days, he had carefully introduced other colony members to Ember, always with Sue present, always slowly. The Dragoth had remained calm with all of them. "Soon," he said. "Maybe tomorrow we can bring a small group." Sue smiled. "They'll like her. She's nice." Jaiho nodded. His daughter's simple trust had changed everything. Because she hadn't been taught to fear Dragoths, she had approached Ember with an open heart, and Ember had responded to that. Suddenly, his computer made a sound. The translation program had found something. "Sue," Jaiho said excitedly, "can you talk to Ember? Ask her some questions. The program might be able to understand her answers now." Sue hopped off her chair and walked to where Ember lay in the sun. The Dragoth raised her head when she approached. "Hi, Ember," Sue said. "How are you today?" Ember made a series of rumbling sounds. The computer translated. "Sun warm. Feel good." Jaiho gasped. It was working. The translation wasn't perfect, but it made sense. "Sue, ask her where she comes from," Jaiho called. Sue nodded. "Ember, where is your home? Where do you come from?" More rumbles and soft growls. The computer translated. "Stars far. Home destroyed. Alone now." Jaiho felt a chill. This was new information. Ember was alone. Her home was destroyed. This could explain why she had come to Harmony. "Ask her if there are other Dragoths," Jaiho suggested. "Are there more like you, Ember? Other dragons like you?" Sue asked. Ember's answer came through the translator. "Few now. Once many. Big light in sky hurt home." Jaiho quickly wrote notes. "Big light in sky. Could she mean a supernova? A star explosion? Had the Dragoth's home system been destroyed by a dying star? One more question, Sue, Jaiho said. Ask her why she stays here at our colony. Sue petted Ember's nose gently. Why do you stay here with us, Ember? The Dragoth made a soft sound and nudged Sue gently with her nose. The computer translated. Small one not afraid. Small one friend. Not alone now. Jaiho felt tears in his eyes. It was so simple. Ember stayed because Sue had shown her friendship. After losing her home, the Dragoth had found connection here. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting 2 days later. All 37 members gathered to hear Kang's report from Harmony. We have been wrong about Dragoths, Kang began. His voice was firm but humble. They are not mindless killers. They are intelligent beings capable of communication and friendship. He showed them videos of Sue with Ember. He played the translated conversations. Many council members looked shocked. The Dragoth that the humans call Ember has revealed something important, Kang continued. Her home system was destroyed by a supernova. That's why Dragoths have been moving into our space over the past century. They are refugees, not invaders. The council room was silent. This changed everything. But why do they attack our ships? Asked a council member. Because we approach them with weapons and fear, Kang explained. The humans have shown us a better way. When the little girl approached with friendship, the Dragoth responded with friendship. What do you suggest we do? Asked the council leader. I suggest we learn from the humans, Kang said. We establish communication with Dragoths. We offer them safe territories. We make peace. The council voted. For the first time in 400 years, the policy on Dragoths was changed. No longer would they be seen as enemies to be avoided. Now they would be approached as potential friends. Back on Harmony, a special day had arrived. The colony school had organized a field trip to meet Ember. 20 children, including Sue, walked with their teachers to the edge of the colony where the Dragoth stayed. Jaiho and several security officers watched carefully. Director Han was there too, along with Sunhai. Are you sure this is safe? Han asked Jaiho quietly. Ember has been gentle with everyone who approaches calmly, Jaiho said. And children naturally have less fear than adults. I think it will be fine. The children gathered at a safe distance. Ember watched them with her golden eyes. Remember what we practiced, the teacher said to the children. Move slowly, speak softly, no sudden movements. Sue stepped forward first. Hi, Ember. I brought my friends to meet you. Ember lowered her head to the ground, making a soft, rumbling sound. One by one, the children approached. They spoke to Ember and gently touched her scales. The Dragoth remained calm, sometimes making soft sounds that the translator interpreted as contentment. Han watched in amazement. If someone had told me a month ago that I would see children petting a Dragoth, I would have said they were crazy. The universe is full of surprises, Sunhai said with a smile. In the days that followed, more amazing things happened. 2 more Dragoths arrived near Harmony. With Sue's help and Ember's example, these new Dragoths also made peace with the humans. Jaiho's translation program got better. The humans learned that Dragoths could travel through space naturally. They had a complex society. They valued family and community. They were not so different from humans after all. 1 month after Sue first petted Ember's nose, a historic meeting took place. The Galactic Council chamber had a new member, a Dragoth representative. It was the first time in history that a Dragoth had been invited as a friend, not feared as an enemy. As Kang watched the Dragoth take its place in the council, he thought about how one small human child had changed the galaxy. Because she approached with love instead of fear, centuries of misunderstanding had ended. Sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from those who don't yet know what to be afraid of.